Phails at philosophy.
Now, I think Buddhism as a system, like it's as a religion especially, it's saying, no, you can get to that goal. Like do these things that the Buddha taught us.
The Buddha awakening.
Right.
The Four Noble Truths.
And you can be liberated.
Yeah. And that brings us back to, I guess, the next thing. They talk about how things are. And on one side, I guess this is in Buddha epistemology too. On one side, there's a denial of any final nature of reality, which is basically saying there is no how things are. It's an interesting way to answer that question. How things are, and I know there is no how things are, versus experiential ground of reality, ontological, unified experience of truth, which was like that Buddha's awakening thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's part of what's interesting me about Buddhist philosophy is it confronts this same set of problems around how we know reality through our knowledge systems, right? But instead of giving up like I do, right, it says, no, that awareness that this thing you call self, that seems so fundamental, like that there's a me that is aware, is a false concept. It's an illusion.
Because there's no self.
Right, there's no
emptiness.
Self. Right, that there is any content of the world beyond that emptess.
How can I get to that conclusion?
Right,
though?
Right. So that you get that, like it seems like an anti-foundationalism, right?
Yeah.
But then it says recognizing that, creates the space of a kind of naked awareness, to use a Buddhist phrase, right? An awareness of things as they are that transcends that conceptual representation, not because it gives you a better representation, not because it gives you the proper label, not because it gives you the proper foundation, but because it allows you to recognize that the fundamental nature of reality is its lack of foundation.
Yeah.
And that's just mind bending, right? That sounds like nonsense when you think about it.
When they say no self or emptiness, they're saying that this person that is the observer of my sensations, I'm almost saying myself in the third person, this whatever, the seat of consciousness, this observer in me, they're saying that doesn't exist.
That does not exist as a fundamental thing, right? That as a thing in itself, right?
Well, what the heck is it? Like, who am I?
Well, the word they use is this word skanda, which means heaps, or we often translate as aggregate. That you're kind of like, you're just an aggregate of sensations and thoughts that's kind of knotted up in reality and created this illusion of a kind of singular thing.
That's this universal consciousness? Is that what that is? What do you mean? When you say aggregate, that's a part of a whole, right?
Right. Like it's just this sort of this stuff. Like like I said, skandhas is often translated as heaps. It's stuff or piles. It's stuff that's kind of piled up onto like different kinds of things that have just kind of piled up until you have this pile of stuff that you said, well, that's a thing, but it's really just this pile of stuff, right? And then ultimately, if you follow someone like Nagarjuna, even those things that are piled up are their own nature is to be piles of other things. Yeah, I mean, it's hard.
There's an ickiness to it.
Right. There's
like, I want to have purpose. I want to be special.
Right.
And I think that's where they're talking about this rawness, this naked truth of you're not special.
Right.
This is like Fight Club just came to mind. The walking, talking trash of the world.
Right.
We're garbage.
Right.
And piles.
Right. We're just piles. And I think, I think partly when we first confront this, it seems like this sort of anti-ego psychological game. Like it's like a lesson in humility. I mean, this is part of why I think humility, compassion are so fundamental to Buddhism, right? They're not fundamental to Buddhism because Buddhists are trying to be nice, right?
Right.
They're not fundamental to Buddhism because Buddhists are necessarily invested in producing certain types of social systems like families, like we talked about, like, The Buddha is one of the original deadbeat dads.
Right.
You know, they're invested in those because those contribute to liberation, right? And one of the first ways we begin to recognize our lack of self is through altruism, through compassion, through an orientation to others and the importance of others and the way we value others.
Stop thinking about yourself.
Right.
Stop investing energy in growing this ego.
Right.
Start growing others, and that makes this smaller.
Right. And, you know, I remember when I would go and watch Buddhist teachers when I was a graduate student, and they're talking about Buddhism, you know, they would say, you know, Westerners often, when they come to Buddhism, they want to meditate, right?
Yeah.
Meditate, because it's cool. Like, you get these great states of mind. And they're like, you can't do that without the entirety of the Eightfold Path, part of which is this
Reducing the
this
self.
training of ethical life, right?
Yeah.
Of a certain kind of way we behave and conduct ourselves as lives, because that's part of the foundation of producing this awareness as much as the meditation, right?
God dang. That one struck me.